Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Captain Dave Martin, Health and Safety Officer for Yakima County Fire District 5. And you are listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 48 of Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence environments. The SA Matters mission is simple, to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from Loveland, Colorado, where I'm very excited to be presenting a special 2-day Situational Awareness Matters tour stop. What makes this stop so special is it's a sponsored tour stop. That's right, last April at the FDIC in Indianapolis, Midwest Fire sponsored a giveaway of a full-day situational awareness program. Loveland Fire and Rescue Authority in Colorado was the winner. What makes that really cool is that this is my second tour stop in Loveland, even though my first one was several years ago. Loveland then agreed to pick up a second-day program where we are going to thin slice a line-of-duty death event and see how, almost in slow motion, the event unfolded that led to the tragic death of a firefighter. Then we're going to spend the afternoon in a round-table type discussion with their command officers talking about how to improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making with a specific application to how their department operates, looking at their policies, their procedures, their command, their staffing, communications, training, and I suspect a whole lot more than that. It's going to be an awesome 2-day event. Thank you, Midwest Fire, for being such a strong supporter of the SA Matters mission. Okay, let's jump into our interview. Firefighters and addiction. It's not something that we like to acknowledge or talk about. On this episode, we both acknowledge the problem, and then we have two guests from the American Addiction Center here to give first responders advice about how to get help. I'm really excited to have as my guests Mark Lamplugh and Mike Healy, both first responders and both committed to helping first responders with addiction issues. So let's start with giving them the opportunity to introduce themselves, and then we'll jump into the interview. I first got connected with Mark when we were together at a conference, and then together with Mark and Mike at another conference at Firehouse World in San Diego, and we had dinner together, which was a wonderful evening. And I said, I really got to do a podcast. I got to get you guys onto the show and talk about some of the wonderful things that you're doing. But before we jump into the detail of what you're doing, I'm going to give each of you a chance to kind of do a little intro. So, Mark, tell the audience about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Mark Lamplugh, and I'm a former fire captain from Lower Chichester Fire Company in Delaware County, PA. And I'm a fourth-generation firefighter. I kind of was raised in a firehouse, so to speak. My father, who's still currently the president, my grandfather, who was the fire chief, my great-grandfather, who they give an award out every year, JTL award, my uncle, my two cousins, and, I love the fire service, and, I grew up there, and anything I can do to help.
So we can say that's in the genes, right?
Yeah, in the genes, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was kind of written in stone what was going to happen to me, when I got of age. Mm-hmm. And they actually, to be a junior at the department, you had to be 16. Well, when I turned 15, they changed the bylaws so I could join a year earlier.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So keep going.
So I'm now a national treatment consultant with American Addiction Centers, just basically specializing in first responder services and getting firefighters help for addiction issues, mental health issues, PTSD, and have family issues and things like that. So it's been an interesting experience, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, good. Welcome, Mike. How about you?
Well, much like Mark, it's fire is a family business for us. I'm currently the assistant chief of the Central New York Fire Department. My youngest son is the chief, and my older of my two sons is an ex-chief. I'm also an ex-chief. I've been chief twice before. I've been a firefighter for 44 years in Rockland County, New York, which is about 15 miles north of New York City, and I've always wanted to be able to reach out to help the firefighters throughout the country get help with behavioral health. I retired from the New York City Transit Authority in 2008, where I was the clinical director of the counseling unit, and hopefully we can reach out and help some people.
Nice. Well, let's start by having one or both of you, for the benefit of the audience, talk about what the American Addiction Centers is.
Okay. Yeah, American Addiction Centers is a national treatment organization, which currently right now we have 7 facilities throughout the United States. We have an adult program in South Florida, an adolescent program in South Florida. We have a facility in Dallas, a facility in Las Vegas, and 2 facilities in Southern California. And we're a dual diagnosis facility, and basically what that means is not only do we treat the addiction issues, but we treat the underlying causes of addiction. Oftentimes, alcohol and drugs are a symptom of an underlying problem, and once you remove the alcohol and drugs, you got to fix the problem. So we, help with the depression, PTSD, if they're having anxiety issues and things like that. And we also have a binge eating, overeating program in Nashville, where we're putting a program together called Fit for Duty for firefighters who are struggling, with obesity and binge eating, where we can kind of get them back in shape and, get them back on the job.
Is that facility, like the binge eating facility, is that something that they would physically go to that facility for their treatment? Yes.
Absolutely. Yep.
So it'd be like,
say you got a guy failing out of Fit for Duty. He's coming up on his yearly physical, and he's not passing that physical. We can bring him in under his health insurance in an inpatient setting, and treat his eating disorder, and kind of get him back in shape so he can get back on the job. It's one of I think the only ones in the United States that are really doing that, and a lot of what other programs forget is, a lot of the diet programs just address eating issues. The gyms address the physical fitness, but they forget about the most important part, and that's the mind. If you don't fix the why you're eating like that and stuff, you're always going to gain that weight back, or, go back to the old habits. And a perfect example of that is, people that get the gastric bypasses, well, oftentimes they get that, and then a year or two later they start gaining weight again, because they haven't changed the way they're eating and why they're eating that way, and addressing the mental health issues that are behind it.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I noticed on the website there was something called the Share the Load program. What is that?
When I started this program back in 2011, I met with a gentleman named Mike Blackburn. He's a retired battalion chief from Providence, Rhode Island Fire Department. And I started looking for ways that Mike and I started looking for ways that we could reach every firefighter in the country. There's as everybody knows, the majority of this country is covered by volunteer firefighters that have absolutely no program at all. So I looked into the National Volunteer Fire Council, and I got in touch with Heather Schaefer, their director, and Mike and I went and met with her in their offices in Maryland, and we sat down and we said, this is what we can offer. One of the main things was a central way to speak to firefighters. one single number that they can call when they're in trouble. And we offered that to the NVFC. They were very, very helpful in getting that, advertising that number and getting that number out. And about a year and a half ago, they decided to come up with this Share the Load program, which is a partnership of the NVFC and American Addictions, where they reach out, that they call that number, they will either reach Mark, myself, or Mike Blackburn. Mike Blackburn used to run the counseling unit for the Providence, Rhode Island Fire Department.
Okay. So where would they find that phone number?
The NVFC has put that phone number in a poster that was folded inside of Fire Engineering magazine. They pass them out at all the fire trade shows, as do we. And there's more and more advertising being planned through grants and as much as we can to get the information out there that they can reach that number. It's really starting to blossom. We're receiving a lot of calls for people, men and women, that are really in trouble with PTSD, depression, and have had nowhere to reach out to.
You can also find that number.
Go ahead, Mark.
You can also find the number on the NVFC website, nvfc.org, and then they have a tab for Share the Load program, and also on American Addiction Center's website under Fire Services.
Okay, and I'll make sure that I include those links to those websites in the show notes for this episode. How did the two of you get involved in this? I mean, there's lots of ways for people to give, and frankly, when they're involved in the fire service, that usually becomes their way of giving. What inspired the two of you to get involved with the American Addiction Centers?
Well, 27 years ago, I realized that I had a problem with alcohol, and I reached out, and I belonged to a union, the Transport Workers Union in New York, and they had just opened up a program, and I reached out to that program, and which started me, it helped me out, getting me in the right direction, and 5 years later, I started working in that program, and when I retired, I was the clinical director of the program. I've known for years that firefighters, I've seen it happen. I've seen guys, unfortunately, friends of mine have committed suicide. Friends of mine have lost their families, their jobs, been put out of the fire department because of drinking, drugs, or other bizarre behavior that a lot of it could have been avoided had they had somewhere to reach out to.
Yeah, for sure. Good that you did. Mark, where's your inspiration come from?
I, sort of similar to Mike, 5 years ago had issues of myself, and it came ahead in the fire department chief's office with a few of my fellow firefighters and my father, and basically sat me down and said, what are you doing? You need to do something about it. So I went and I got myself straightened out, and then I started working for a facility down here in South Florida where I had built my own first responder treatment program with this place. And then basically I had always had the idea sort of similar like Mike, is have a resource that just doesn't deal with the substance abuse, but helps a firefighter with everything. So I met Mike and Mike last year at FDIC, and we sat down, we had lunch, and I got to see what they were doing with the Share the Load in the NVFC. So I think only made sense for me to jump on board with those guys and really help expand the Share the Load program.
Okay. How does this how does the helpline work? So talk me through this, or the listener through this.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you give a call, it could be for anything. I'll give you an example for one of the calls that I received lately. I won't even give you what state it's from for confidentiality reasons, but I had a gentleman call. It was about 8 p.m. at night where he was firefighter, just came off duty, and he called, but he was very resistant to speak. He told me a little bit about himself, and I just started talking basic fire department lingo to him, and so I asked him about, what type of department he was in. I told him, you don't have to tell me what department, but, are you on an engine? Are you on a truck? And as I talked to him, he started loosening up a little bit. It turns out that he had lost his family. He had there was no alcohol or drugs involved, but he had lost his family. He's very on the rocks on the job. They weren't very happy with him. And he was coming home at night, and he was sitting in the dark. No television on, no nothing. Just sitting there in the dark. He was suffering from severe PTSD. After a longer talk with him, I spoke to this gentleman over 3 days. He kept calling back. And by the third day, I had given him three. I had him tell me what big town he was near. I looked up on the website for PTSD counselors in his area, and I gave him the three of them. I said, what you do with it is your choice. But here are 3 places that you can call that have PTSD certified counselors. And by the third day, he called me back and told me that he had actually made the call, which made me feel great, And you know what? I don't know what happened after that, but as we both, Mark, Mike, and myself always say, this doesn't have to be your only phone call. You can call us back at any time.
So is what you do referrals? I mean, you referred him. So is that when somebody calls, is that what they call the helpline and they would expect that, after you kind of get a understanding of, what area that they're looking for help with, that you would then refer them to some local agency that could, take them to the level of help?
Yeah, it's somewhere in their area, where I look on a website that I have confidence in. It's going to have good people working for them, and we always offer. Do you want us to call the therapist and have the therapist call you? And 99% of the time they say no, that we'll do it. And then it's up to them. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. I was actually shocked that guy had made that choice and had made the call, but it was something. It was somewhere for him to call. He saw that number somewhere, whether on a poster, in a fire magazine or something like that, or in the station, and he made that call. The last time I spoke to him, he was a different guy from the first time I spoke to him.
All right, so the helpline, is it 24 hours a day, or is it just, Monday through Friday business hours?
The helpline's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We'll receive the calls directly to us, and sometimes they go into our call center where we have, trained staff that's, able to take those calls. And, every call is different, so we never know what it's going to be. But, I think a lot of the reasons why it works so well is, with us being former firefighters, we kind of understand where they're at and, able to talk to them and, really get a good idea of, what they're going through, and then make the proper recommendation based on, what clinical needs they may need, to further their care, because, a PTSD related issue isn't a one phone call and you're cured thing. You gotta, do some therapies and go talk to somebody, on a weekly basis. If it's a substance abuse issue, we want to make sure we get them into, a program, whether it be ours or somebody else's, depending on if they're qualified. And, but yeah, to answer the question, it is 24 hours a day.
So somebody's actually answering the phone, or they leave a number and then you guys get a page and then you call them back? I'm just trying to get the person who might need some help to understand when they call at 4 a.m, what they're going to get.
Yeah, they're going to get a live person.
Okay. All right.
The phone call will be answered by either Mark. If Mark doesn't answer it, it bounces directly to my phone. If I don't answer it, it bounces directly to Mike Blackburn's phone.
Okay. What kind of things can you guys help with? What is the repertoire? So the person sitting out there saying, "Well, my issue is a little unique. I've got some special issue." So, what is the gamut of issues that a firefighter might be able to call you guys and get some assistance with?
Usually, when it comes down to the line, over the years of working in this field, you can run into anything. But mostly for firefighters, I find that, and I'm sure Mark will agree with me, that it's 10-to-1 PTSD compared to alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs are out there, though. It's a major problem, and we're not judgmental at all. But a lot of times when the firefighters are suffering from PTSD, or anxiety or depression, when you do a little searching and we do a little talking to them, we find out that there's also most of the time alcohol involved, and it brings on it makes for a tough conversation sometimes. But it's amazing how forthcoming they become when they know that they're talking to another firefighter.
I can imagine. Yeah, because I've talked with firefighters who've been through a little bit unrelated, a post-incident debrief, and the people that were involved in the debrief were not first responders; they were clinicians, and that seemed to frustrate the first responders because the clinicians really didn't understand the world that they were coming from. Where when somebody calls you all, they're going to be firefighters talking to firefighters.
Yeah.
Right. I actually answered a call from my chief's car the other day. I had just gotten back in from a call, and my phone rang. I looked down, and I saw it was the hotline, and took the call. Never mentioned to the guy where I was, but he heard the radio in the background. Hey, you want to call now? I said, yeah. And what you got? Right away, the link was made. I was talking to a brother.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What's this cost?
Nothing. The call to the line costs nothing. Like that, when I helped out that guy the other day, that gentleman who on the third day reached out for help. That costs nothing. That was just a referral. The only time that it costs them anything is if it's for alcohol or drug abuse, and they attend one of the American addiction facilities.
Okay, so
and a lot of times that's covered under health insurance too. So it still may not cost anything if they have to come into the program, depending on what their health care will cover.
Right. Okay, what's the you have a member assistance program that the American Addiction Center offers to career fire departments. So what is this member assistance program?
We've spoken to some of the professional. I don't like using the professional word. Career firefighters in some of the IAFF locals that have been looking for something also. Some of them have what are known as external EAPs, where they call and they get somebody at an insurance company that gives them a number to call, and they usually wind up waiting on the phone for several hours trying to find someplace to call. They've reached out to us, and they've also asked us if they could call. And this number was originally put together to help any firefighter in this country, or EMT, or anybody else from the fire service that calls in. And so, yeah, we've had a number of career departments contact us and ask us if they could come on board, and we're more than happy to help them out.
And how do they get a hold of you guys to have that discussion?
It's the same line. It's on the same line, 888-731-3473.
Oh, go slower in case somebody's writing that down.
Okay, I'll do that again slowly. It's 888-731-FIRE, which is 3473.
Okay. You got that New York speed to your voice. All right, so many communities, many fire departments have EAPs, employee assistance programs. How does what you guys do integrate or complement or overlay or work with EAPs?
Well, in the past, being an EAP, I know how EAPs operate, and sometimes they want to do their own thing. And the first question that I ask a career firefighter is, do you have an EAP in your department? And if the answer is yes, my first suggestion to them is that they contact their EAP, because their department may have contracts with facilities or something like that. And I tell them, if not, you're certainly welcome to call this number at any time. But I don't want to interfere with the operation of the department's EAP.
And we'll also, be a resource for the EAP. A lot of the times, we'll go in, we'll sit with the EAPs. That way there, when one of their firefighters, come into them and are struggling with alcohol or substance abuse, they can give us a call, and we'll make sure we'll get them into our program. And then we'll work with the EAPs while they're in treatment with us to make sure all the treatment protocols are followed and they have everything they need for the individual to go back to work when they complete.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you guys ever run into the situation where somebody says, yeah, we have an EAP at work, but I don't trust going to them because I'm afraid they're going to come back to the employer and tell the employer, that I've got this particular issue or challenge that I would have rather just had kept confidential? Do you run into anybody who has this fear or skepticism about using their EAP?
All the time. Yeah, I would say a lot of the times. And if they're self-reporting on their own, they can come into us, and we don't report to anybody that they're there. But it is always good we always make the suggestion that they check just to make sure they follow all the, rules and regulations of their department to make sure their, job won't be in jeopardy when they come back. But if they're able to self-report and come in on their own without the department knowing or the EAP knowing, and then go back to work and be okay, then, obviously, we want to do that, because, our main goal with any firefighter that comes in or EMT is we want them to go back to work, so we want to protect their job.
Mm-hmm. Well, Mike, you shared one story, but I want to give each of you a chance to maybe just back and forth share a couple of success stories that I know you can't, and we don't want you to reveal the kind of details that are going to allow us to know who you're talking about, but I would guess that you get so many referrals from so many people whose stories are the same, that it would be hard for someone to say, oh yeah, that's Joe Smith in Lower Overshoe, Idaho that they're talking about. Just in generalities, let's hear some success stories of some firefighters that you guys have helped. I think that would be inspirational.
Okay, I think that one of the important things that, and I already gave the example for the firefighter, another very important piece for this, Rich, I'm sure you're aware of it. This country's under an absolute epidemic of opiate use, and not only by kids, but by adults, firefighters, and the entire population of the country, especially on both coasts. Probably one of my best, the ones I felt best about, included a family member. And family members, firefighters using this line are always welcome to call about family members. I had a call about a 16-year-old girl. What firefighter can go to work and know that their 16-year-old child, daughter, is shooting heroin? And that seemed to be the case. The girl did not come to an American addiction facility. They had absolutely the most horrible health insurance in the world, but I did help them get her into a facility that they could afford in their area. And the last I heard, the girl was doing fine. Our family, we're firefighters. Families first. And it was just great to be able to be a part of this young lady getting her life back in shape. And the firefighter was more than grateful in his response.
So you helped the family members too?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, I've worked in this. I'm getting calls all the time, not from just from firefighters. People that know that I'm in this, that I know my way around this business. I live 15 miles north of New York City, straight up the Hudson River, and the amount of overdoses and death by overdoses up here is completely off the hook. So we always put it out for the families. If a firefighter's spouse is in terrible shape with alcohol or drugs or depression or anxiety, whatever the case, we're more than happy to help them out too.
Okay, now we've talked about drugs, alcohol, depression, PTSD, eating disorder. Is there other areas that people are calling for help with?
Family counseling would be on there. You're having some problems in your relationship. That's definitely a big one. I find, in firefighters' marriages, because of the hours that firefighters work and volunteers, how much time they really spend away from their family, even in the volunteer department, so it always creates some, rough marriages, so we'll get calls, for that.
Okay.
And one of the success stories I wanted to share, we had a guy, called a few months ago. I mean, literally, I took the call, and, the guy was down and out. He never had mentioned suicide on the phone, but I had got a call from the police department the very next day saying that, this guy had called and, can you help him? We don't know what he's going to do and all this. So I ended up finding him somewhere to go. And he went for 12 weeks and got his PTSD straightened out. And, and now he's out promoting and helping share the information of the helpline to his local departments. And, he had sent me a letter and, just thanking me for, really pointing him in the right direction.
Nice. Now, what are some of the, and this might be a little bit off topic, but I'm going to lay it out there and see what you guys have to offer here. I'm in the fire department, and I noticed that somebody in our company just isn't acting right. What are some of the signs or clues or indicators that I might have a coworker who's having an issue? And then if I see those indicators that you're going to tell me about, what could I do to help them?
Well, if they're isolating from everybody, they're not acting themselves. If you're smelling alcohol on them or, bloodshot eyes, they're not performing, like they used to. It's a pretty tall tale sign that they're having issues, that there's a lot of issues that they're sharing that are going on at home. I mean, that probably means that they're having some sort of issue with, financial reasons and things like that. If you notice somebody that's having a problem, I mean, you spend a lot of time with your guys on shift, usually 24 hours a day. You know them better than anybody else. Have a little talk with them, pull them aside and say, hey, what is going on, and offer the number, offer to call with them, sit down here, let's call together. If it's a real serious issue where you think that the firefighter is going to be suicidal or really hurt somebody, then it's really time to take it up the ladder and get him help, because his life's worth more than anything.
True, and I've done some educational work in some of the firehouses, and I'll have guys grab me and say, this guy Richie over here, he's been. We're really concerned about this guy. It's probably one of the reasons you're here today and stuff like that. And I said, guys, I went to the company officer, and I said, Lieutenant, I said, if this is the case, you really have to bring this to the chief. I said, because you wanting this person to get help isn't going to get him help. He's going to have to be sat down by somebody from the administration and see what can be done for him. I said, hopefully what I said today will reach him, but that's not necessarily so. I mean, they were afraid at this point that this guy was going to harm himself or his family.
Mm-hmm. The firefighter who has concern for another firefighter, can they call you guys? Is there anything you can do for them?
Yeah, depending on what it is, they can call, and we can, obviously most cases are, case by case, so you never know what's going on till you hear somebody telling you. But, we have access to interventionists and all kinds of things that maybe there's a firefighter on your shift that's struggling with alcohol, and you know it, and you call us, and, we can help you maybe get the family involved, because if you notice it, the family notices it, and maybe we can get a professional interventionist out there to do an intervention to get them to accept treatment. So we'll definitely be able to try to help as much as we can with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is this all confidential? When somebody needs...
Yes, everything that we do, anybody who calls that line is covered under the Federal Confidentiality Act. Anything to do with substance abuse is automatically covered by the Confidentiality Act and also by HIPAA. So you're talking to us. It's not going anywhere. You don't have to give your name. You don't have to give your department. You could say that I just want some referrals to someplace near my house, and we're more than happy to do that for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How is the treatment paid for when someone enters? I know, Mark, you said, private insurance. But is there any other? Should they check with their private insurance before they make the call, or how does this flow?
I always suggest they let us check the insurance, because the insurance company is not in business to, they're going to spend as little money as possible to get you help. So if they call us, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to verify their benefits. We're going to see exactly what it pays for and what it doesn't. If for whatever reason the insurance doesn't work for us at American Addiction Centers, we will help find them a program that it does work, because every policy in this country is different and every insurance company is different. Because most rates and things like that and payouts are decided by the employer, your employer and your insurance company, and it gets very confusing. So basically the best suggestion I can give anybody is if they're wondering if their insurance is going to cover the cost, to give us a call, let us, we'll verify the benefits. Nobody knows that we've done that, so it's not like the insurance company calls your job and says, hey, they just checked the benefits, to go to treating it. And, like I said, if we can't help with the insurance, or it's not something that we're able to work with, we have relationships all throughout the country with different facilities. Once we see the benefits, we know where they work well, and we'll help get them in a program.
Okay. Talk me through a referral. All right. So I'm having some problems. I call the number. I'm scared. And I don't know you guys. Tell me how this is going to play out.
Mike, you want me to answer that?
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Okay. So you're going to call, we're going to answer the phone, and we're just going to talk to you a little bit and, try to figure out really what's going on. I'm also going to share a little bit about my history and my background, and that way there you're comfortable knowing I kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about as far as the fire service world, and I'm going to kind of understand some of the stresses that you're under. I understand how your insurance works. I understand how addiction works, and then I'm going to make some suggestions to you based on what you tell me. This call can be 15 minutes, it could be 1 hour, it could be 2 hours. It all depends on how comfortable you are. And then just say, for instance, it's an alcoholism issue and you need treatment, and I check your benefits and it's something that works for us. Probably I could say you can be in a bed in one of our facilities in less than 24 hours from the initial call. Anywhere in the United States, we can have you in one of our beds. It's really that fast.
Not only does American Addictions has different facilities that will accept different insurances also, what's known as in-network insurances, which is, it's absolutely terrible today, the way that the insurance companies, as Mark said before, try and get you the lowest rate of treatment. All our facilities are top-notch. And like I said, the bottom line is getting the person help. And the one thing that I love about them is American Addictions is that they're willing to reach out to facilities that they have no partnerships with or anything else. We'll get that person in treatment one way or the other.
Nice. Well, we're running short on time, so I'm going to give you guys a chance to cover anything that we haven't covered yet, that you'd want to make sure that the listeners would know about the addiction centers or about what you guys have to offer.
I think what you just touched on before about the firefighter in the firehouse seeing that there's something wrong with one of your brothers or sisters. Don't sit in silence and talk to each other about it. Talk to the person about it. Reach out, if that's not helping, reach out to somebody from the EAP or the chief of department, whatever the person or persons necessary to get this person help. I recently had a call from one of the biggest departments in the country, has like the best EAP in the country, and they're worried about this guy. He was actually drinking vanilla extract. And I said, listen, you guys have the best EAP in the country. I said, reach out to them. I said, you're going to be going to this guy's funeral. And they said, okay. They did it, and within the next day, the guy was in treatment. But that's all they needed was a little coaching. What do I do with this? Here's your answer. Standing by and doing nothing will get you nothing as a result, except possibly this person harming themselves or dying of alcoholism.
Now, I would guess that there are a lot of firefighters out there, and I'd probably put myself in this category, that wouldn't exactly know what to say to someone. So we say nothing because we don't know what to say. If that person who doesn't know what to say called you guys, would you give them some advice about how to approach the person that they're concerned with?
Sure, and with today's technology, if they wanted to walk into a separate room at the firehouse and put their iPhone on speakerphone, I'd be happy to speak with the two of them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That I hadn't really thought about that as an option.
Yeah, but covering up is the worst thing you can do because it is not. You think you're doing well. You think you're covering his back, making sure he doesn't get in trouble. But it's only going to snowball, and then you're going to one day get a shocking announcement that so-and-so died in a DUI accident or he committed suicide or whatever because you just, you thought you were helping him by covering up, and you're not. I mean, go to him first. If you don't, you can even put an ultimatum to the individual, say, hey, we're going to go to treatment together, or we're going to go to the chief. So what do you want to do? Do you want to go to treatment, get yourself together, or do you want to go to the chief and let them decide what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. And coming to you guys is a way of kind of averting going down the path of discipline, because it'll probably end up there, won't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Eventually, I mean, I've had captains call me, I've had chiefs call me, and I've had it in my own department. Not too long ago, where I had to sit a firefighter down and say, you do something or you're gone. Don't come here anymore if you don't do anything. And they didn't come around for over 6 months. When they did come around, they were a new person. They never said a word to me. I just looked in their eyes and I knew that they had done something. And I never said another word of it, and neither did they. But they're back around, they're doing great, and I'm very happy for them.
Nice. Anything else in closing? Or maybe in closing you tell us website address for the center. You know, if somebody says, well, I want to go and read a little bit more about this, how do they find you guys?
You can find, you go to AmericanAddictionCenters.org, and then you can click the Fire Service tab. That explains the fire service information that we do. And you can also go to the NVFC.org and click Share the Load program. It explains the share the load and everything like that. And you can, obviously email Mike or myself or call the number 888-731-FIRE. And, you can talk to us directly.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for giving me the gift of some time today to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you.
It's, as you guys started out by saying, it's epidemic. I mean, there's so many first responders with so many challenges that are either harming themselves, harming others. Their career is going down in flames because they don't know what to do, and what you provide is the door that can be opened that could lead to a change in their life. So thank you for what you're doing. It's such an important mission. Well, that concludes the interview with Mark and Mike from the American Addiction Center. Thanks to both of you for being my guest. Before I close the episode, I want to take a moment to thank the fire departments and organizations that have hosted recent SA Matters Tour Stop events. The mission couldn't be possible without the effort and support of our hosts. Recent tour stops included Bozeman, Montana, a program hosted by the Gallatin County Emergency Management Agency. This was my third time presenting in Bozeman, and the turnout was awesome. We spent the day talking about the challenges of leadership with a program that I call the Leader's Toolbox. And among the things we talked about were the tough issues that impact organizational success. Issues like poor communications, lack of shared vision, gossip, fear of conflict, lack of accountability, sanctioned incompetence, and a whole lot more. Then I was in Midland, Michigan for a program that was sponsored by the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs. This was a first ever SA Matters tour stop in the state of Michigan, only one of a handful of states that have never presented in. The response was overwhelming, and I've already received 4 inquiries for follow-up programs. So thanks to Chief Mike O'Brien for arranging the program for the Michigan Fire Chiefs Association. It was an awesome day. It was the first time that I ever had an attendee show up in a bathrobe. So thanks to Chief Alan Stiles for searing that image into my brain. For those who subscribe to the newsletter, I'll have a picture of Chief Stiles and I, bathrobe and all, from that event. And as always, pictures from other events as well. So be looking for that if you want to see what that looked like. Maybe we want to skip past that picture. But it was kind of funny. I give Alan a lot of credit for keeping things lighthearted. Then I was in Terre Haute, Indiana, and Indianapolis, Indiana, for Company Officer Development Institute programs. This program is designed to teach company officers on how to be successful in leading teams and resolving firehouse issues. When I'm explaining to fire chiefs why they might want to host this program, I tell them that the goal is to teach company officers how to solve problems at their level and keep the problems out of the fire chief's office. Prevention and early intervention are the keys for success there. This week-long program uses zero PowerPoint, which initially can be unnerving for the students who are used to being PowerPointed to death in programs. The learning format is adult-facilitated learning techniques. It leads to some of the best course evaluations I ever receive. In fact, there are some examples of these course evaluations on the SA Matters TV YouTube channel. So if you want to go over there and check them out, this was the 18th and 19th program offering of this week-long event. For Terre Haute, we actually did it over the course of 2 weekends, 2 consecutive weekends with the Indianapolis Airport Fire Department sandwiched in between them. The weekend format allowed for the attendance of volunteer officers, so that was kind of neat. They went on to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, for a program sponsored by the Idaho Department of Lands. This was a program for wildland fire management personnel for the state of Idaho. The program was very well attended, and the SA Matters message was very well received. Thank you to Paul Balfour, the Training and Safety Specialist for the Bureau of Fire Management, for arranging that program. The SA Matters message has been very well received in the wildland fire community, and it makes sense to me. The message is valuable for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-consequence environment and has to make decisions under changing conditions and time compression. Finally, I was in Rice Lake, Wisconsin for the Wisconsin Emergency Services Conference. This program is attended by first responders from all over western Wisconsin. Thank you to Program Manager Ken Gilliam for that opportunity. This was the 4th time the SA Matters message has been shared with these conference attendees over the past 8 years. If you're interested in attending an upcoming SA Matters tour stop, just head over to SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side that says Upcoming Events Schedule, and you'll see the full list there. Here's hoping there will be an event near you and we'll get the chance to meet up. And that would be pretty cool. And if we do meet up, or if you do come to the event, make sure you introduce yourself to me. I'm working hard to recruit new members to the SA Matters community of learners, and I'd like to have you as a member if you're not already. There are over 5,000 members sharing ideas on how to improve situational awareness and decision-making under stress. Membership is free. When you sign up, you get a special report that I've created for new members called 25 Best Practices for Improving First Responder Safety. It's short and sweet, just 25 lessons that can improve safety. It won't take you long to read it. Print it, share it, post it. If you're not a member, head over to the SA Matters website, click on the red box on the right side of the homepage. It says free membership and get your special best practices report. As a reminder, every episode of the radio show has a corresponding show notes page on the SA Matters website. The most recent episodes scroll on the front of the homepage of the website. For order issues, you can access the show by just typing in samatters.com / and the episode number, which is always at the beginning of the episode. You can also subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, and I'll mention more about that in a moment. If you want to get connected with me on social media, you can follow me at Rich Gasaway or at SA Matters on Twitter. And I put out safety messages and occasionally some tidbits about my travels and some things with my family, so it's all me. I don't have anybody else sending out tweets for me. I'm the tweeter. Thank you for the more than 13,000 who've connected with me and engaged with me on Twitter. You can also get connected with me on Facebook by liking the SA Matters page, and on LinkedIn, search for Rich Gasaway, get connected with me there. And thanks to the nearly 9,000 who've connected with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Well, that's it. Episode 48 is complete. Thank you again to Mark Lamplugh and Mike Healy from the American Addictions Center. It was really nice to have you on the show and to share that message. And thank you again to our most awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire, both for sponsoring the podcast and this month for sponsoring the live program event in Loveland, Colorado. Thanks to you, our listeners, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I sincerely appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to be interviewed on this show, visit samatters.com, click on the Contact Us link, and I'll thank you in advance for sharing your lessons learned so others may live. If you like the show, when you go to iTunes or Stitcher, search for SA Matters Radio, subscribe to the podcast and leave your feedback. If you like the show, leave a 5-star review, and that'll help others to find the show. It's also very motivating for me. If you're inspired and want to learn more about SA Matters, consider becoming the member. You get the free report, and I'll send you a newsletter once a month, all for free. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.